I'm Shauntee Daniels, Executive Director of the Baltimore National Heritage Area. I've been in the position officially since 2008. Prior to that, I was the interim director, and I was the director of programs and partnerships for the organization. All in all, I served in some capacity with the Heritage Area since 2008. I was overwhelmed and amazed at the amount of history here in the state and the surrounding areas. No one ever told me that Thurgood Marshall was a native of Baltimore, though we celebrated him being the first African-American associate justice. So we celebrated that, but where was this man from? What was his life? Nobody ever knew. Frederick Douglass, oh my goodness. I did not know about Frederick Douglass until I got here. Would you believe that? And Harriet Tubman was like, I don't know, that I didn't even get. We did see roots though, okay? So we knew Alex Haley was somewhere around here, you know, but no Frederick Douglass, no Harriet Tubman. That was astonishing to me. And this history is just recently being a part of the Baltimore story. Isn't that amazing? Throughout my 15 years at BNHA, no one can accuse me of not being passionate about my work. I believe that our organization is instrumental in preserving Baltimore's history and its cultural integrity. We now have the agency and everyone's attention to make a difference in the present. There are 13 Maryland state heritage areas with the same directive: to preserve the brick and mortar culture and the heritage and the narrative throughout Maryland. The program is monitored by the Maryland Historical Trust. I'm sure some of you have heard about them if you're trying to get 106 and tax credits on your properties, under the Department of Planning, the State Department of Planning. It's usually difficult for most people to understand what a heritage area is because it isn't tangible. You can't put your hands on it. It's like this thing. However, the resources within the heritage areas are extremely tangible. They tell the story: the water, the landscape, the buildings, and most importantly, my favorite thing, the people. The people. A national heritage area are places where natural, cultural, and historic resources combine to form a cohesive, nationally important landscape. Though their resources, heritage areas tell through their resources, heritage areas tell nationally important stories that celebrate our nation's diverse, do I need to say it louder? I'm getting loud. Our diverse heritage. In the Baltimore section of the bill, we expanded the Baltimore Heritage Area boundary to include additional historic neighborhoods. So does anybody know how many neighborhoods there are in Baltimore? Good answer, you win the prize. 274. 274 distinct little neighborhoods, and I only cover 136 of them. The neighborhoods that are part of the National Heritage Area are based upon cultural significance and heritage and cultural resources within them. They tell the story of Baltimore's people and the significant historical events. Neighborhoods such as Sandtown, Winchester, for its rich African-American culture. Gwynns Falls, for all of the mills that created the power that built Baltimore and helped create sail ships for those wonderful clipper ships. Lincoln Park for its strong canopy and green space. And of course, I cannot forget Patterson Park and Fort McHenry National Monument and Historic Shrine. Remember that. All of which have significant historical connections to the past. These are real places where you work, you live, and you play. They're visited by nationalists and regional locals. Think about Utah. Why? Because they are the story of America. The industrial Revolution began here, the first bloodshed of the Civil War. Edgar Allan Poe lived here and died here. Baltimore has always been front and center for change. Baltimore was deeply involved in the succession issues of the Civil War. If it hadn't been for the citizens, black and white, during the Battle of Baltimore, during the defense of a nation, not just Baltimore, a nation, it's highly probably we would have been under England's rule again. Baltimore has always been front line in discourse and change, and resilient in doing so, I might add. It was then Mayor Preston's idea to eradicate the downtown area. Instead of providing resources to develop and invest the area, he displaced the black residents and the black businesses that were once there. How do we change the past? We can't. But we can at least get the story right. Stop denying that we failed and playing the blame game. The plight of the people is their own fault. Really? I don't think so. That's why heritage areas are relevant. Our responsibility is to be stewards of everyone's story, current and future generations. They deserve the truth. There can be no reconciliation without truth. I would like to tell you a story that I believe is relevant for this evening. One of Baltimore's native sons, Henry Louis Mencken, or commonly known as H.L. Mencken, his deeply ingrained convictions that black people were by very nature inferior to white. He defined the American Negro as a low caste man that the superior white race will be 50 years ahead of him. That's what he said. And then he quoted, this is the one that really just set my hair on fire. It's impossible to talk in anything resembling discretion or judgment to a colored woman. They are all essentially childlike, and even hard experience does not teach them anything. These are the beliefs of the people that were running the city of Baltimore. When you're told not to cause friction, don't rebuff the system. You learn to keep your head down just to survive and to support your family. This is how you learn to behave. This is what it's like. What do you do to survive in oppression? The civil rights movement, it was a turning point. So after more than 40 years of rhetoric, H.L. Mencken had a change of heart and took stock. He began to support the Harlem Renaissance writers like James Weldon Johnson, Langston Hughes, and W.E.B. Du Bois. He had a reckoning, something that we're going through right now, right? His former beliefs were unfounded, but the groundwork was already laid. We can't change history, but we can change the future. So before concluding tonight, I would like to quote another one of Baltimore's native sons. Frederick Douglass wrote, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." When I became executive director, this became my mantra. I said it every day to myself because I believed it and I saw it. It is easier to work with children than to try to repair people that are broken. You can't have heritage tourism if little kids are not being taken care of. We have got to invest in our young people. We've got to put pride in them so that they will preserve this city for future generations. That became my motto. Our mission clearly states that we promote, preserve, and enhance Baltimore's historic and cultural legacy and natural resources for current and future generations. If we don't promote and preserve and enhance Baltimore's legacy to our young citizens, then we wouldn't be doing what a National Heritage Area is expected to do, is to engage everyone with authentic history. We can't change history, but we can change the future. And that's a promise. We can change it together.